So that's a bit about our firm. I'm Tal Ron, I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm based in Tel Aviv, I live in Tel Aviv, I like this city. We always see ourselves as also some kind of a crypto hub, affiliate hub. Lots of companies from Tel Aviv or Tel Aviv linked. See many probably Tel Avivian faces here outside. We do only things that interest us. So I don't do like real estate or boring corporate legal stuff. We do mainly ICOs, cryptocurrency, CFDs, where recently the trend that we do more is CFDs and gaming, ICOs. We leave to our friend Jonathan due to lots of risk now in dealing with these kinds of stuff, but we'll still discuss it in the lecture, of course. This is a
So basically, at Blockchain Advisory, we provide legal and fundamentals advice to ICOs, funds, and so on. As you might have heard, Malta is regulating both ICOs and funds, and thus reducing some of the risk involved. So yeah, we are also advisors to the government in relation to the framework which is being drawn. And myself, I'm a lawyer and a developer as well. My partner, Anton, is a developer, so we provide advice in relation to, of course, those wishing to either structure an ICO or a fund, both from Malta and abroad as well.
I can tell you that I've been working with Jonathan for 5 years now. I met him through his previous company. He was working with NetEnt. NetEnt is a very famous Scandinavian, let's say, facing, even though they're international. They're listed in Scandinavia.
They are.
And Jonathan was the head of the legal in Malta. And actually, you co-founded BitMalta, and now you're in blockchain advisory, which him and his partner Anton is working, and they do, let's say, ICOs and blockchain, and the more, let's say, technological, where my firm deals normally with CFDs and operating a gaming site, and so we like split our.
So basically, between us, we cover everything.
Yeah,
really.
cover
so
everything.
anything you need, just approach us.
Sure. Okay, so this is us. Let's start. We have lots of questions. We have not lots of time, so let's hope it'll be interesting. Let's start with a very risky topic. This is, you see, fake news. You can see me, not really looking like me, but that's me on the left-hand side. How not to market a lawyer, to the left, you know. 10 kilos less. Jonathan, let's start.
Okay, so let's start with the first, and I would say one of the hottest questions at the moment. So what are some of the biggest problems which ICOs face nowadays? And what are the solutions? So, as you might know, ICOs started, I guess, picking up pace from last year. We've seen some ICOs back in May, June, which were collecting millions, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened, and everyone's doing an ICO for everything. I had even seen an ICO for dentists as well, so I don't know what dentists want with ICOs, but anyway. And the thing is that, unfortunately, we hear normally about the ICOs which are a success. But there are loads more which are either not successful or they're outright scams. So that is one challenge which ICOs are facing. They're, of course, facing the challenge to prove themselves as being legitimate and being different, perhaps, from the rest, from the majority, which might not be successful or which might be fraudulent. Secondly, there is regulation. It's either present or will be present in the near future. So, for example, if we take the US, for example, we know that the SEC treats all ICOs as security tokens, which means, of course, there's a very rigid structure for such ICOs to take place in the US. Other countries are also starting to regulate ICOs. Malta will be regulating ICOs as well, and it will have a financial instruments test, which will split ICOs into 3 main categories. Apart from that, there's also the challenge for ICOs to market themselves, to make themselves known to the general public. You've heard, of course, other speakers before us who are dealing with such a topic, so I won't go into that. But we do know that ICOs are moving into a new era altogether. Most of them so far have been touting themselves as utility tokens, but in the near future we'll be seeing securitized ICOs taking place on a more regular basis as well.
It's interesting. I cannot agree more than what Jonathan said now. And it's important to understand that this issue and sensitivity of being risking of marketing a fraudulent ICO is something that can touch all our industry. People think that if they are doing marketing and ICO and they're only dealing with one aspect of the marketing, so no one can touch them. And that is wrong. This is why in our firm we're very reluctant. We're now dealing with 6 ICOs, and I'm reluctant to taking more ICOs clients because of this. Because many people who are once in other sectors enter the ICOs, and market things that does not have any feasible added benefit. Okay, and people treat this ICO now as a mechanism to make easy money, and I'm sure not all of us here, or probably most of us here, are not doing that, but we need to be very, very careful regarding that.
And in fact, just one point, I don't know how many of you have heard about the SafeDroid incident. Basically, there was an ICO called SafeDroid where they collected around 50 million US dollars, and one of their team, in order to do a marketing stunt, he pretended to have run off with the money. Okay, so he did a fake exit scam. And then the day after, he said, no, it was a joke, we just want to make a marketing stunt and so on. That was, in my opinion, sorry if there's anyone from SafeDroid here, but that was completely stupid. If he wants to make jokes like that, he can go and play Monopoly and make jokes with that sort of money. But 50 million is a lot of money. And of course, we are now going towards, I would say, a more mature market, so we need to act accordingly.
Exactly. So that was ICOs.
Up to you now.
Most of my clients are dealing with opening an exchange, okay? So either they do a real exchange where you can exchange from different, from fiat currency to crypto, and from crypto to crypto. That's one model. Well, for this, you can be licensed in Estonia. Estonia is part of the EU. They like to call themselves as a crypto capital. I'm not sure how much there are, the crypto capital, but there are some incentives there. I do see some operations working for them. And best of things, they have a good structure for opening companies there with currency exchange as the declared activity, and also with a full license for cryptocurrency. So that's very interesting in Estonia as an exchange. The other way of operating is to take a platform with one of the providers. Panda can be one. Antelope, also a good one. Tradeologic. There are lots of companies, good companies that are doing that, are here around in the conference that offer you to get a white label solution and open your exchange. Now, you still call yourself an exchange, but the big difference is in that in the second option, you don't actually buy the cryptocurrency. You give the client the option to buy a CFD, a contract for difference on that currency. Now, there are companies, there are even publicly listed companies like Plus 500, okay, a household name listed in the UK, in the London Stock Exchange, which offer these types of flavors. Now, these are something which is very, very hot. I see people from other sectors, people from 2 years ago that have been flourishing in the binary options industry, get into that. And when I see that they work decently and pay to their clients, I think that's a good way of doing money. If you're working, let's say there's not proper regulation on that, even though the FCA would argue that they should be regulated under MiFID, and I agree. But it's still a gray area, and in a much matter if clients are self-regulated or regulated properly in the markets which they are target, that's a good way and a proper way to succeed.
You mentioned MiFID, and I think there might be a good chance of them being potentially brought under MiFID as well. So again, there's a good chance of that, which would mean, of course, they are brought under an EU regulated framework.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, but here, maybe the major point is you see, if brokers, okay, and CFD companies, and will be widely recognized as scammers or fraudsters, probably what happened to the binary options industry will happen to that industry as well. And it will be 1 or 2 years and everything will get down. But if there will be more decency, if these companies will work with either an in-house lawyer or external lawyer, we as external lawyers take care of many of these activities. We check the landing pages, we check the compliance, we make sure that not falsifying facts, etc. It can be good for all the industry. Jonathan, what's the difference between utility and security token? Why is that a buzzword? There was like a real conference like that, a full lecture I think in the last affiliate conference.
And I think it's one of the most common questions which I get normally. I know what is the difference and classification between utility and security tokens? So let's start off with security tokens. So normally, security tokens are those tokens which derive their value from, let's say, external or underlying assets. So if we're talking, let's say, for a token which is backed by gold, that would be a security token. If we're talking about another token which might give you, let's say, ownership rights or voting rights in a company, that would be an equity token, which in itself would fall under security as well. So those type of tokens, I would say, are mostly already regulated. We don't need to wait for new regulation. They're already regulated.
As a security.
As a security.
Yeah.
As a security. So even if they take the form of a cryptocurrency, it doesn't matter. Most jurisdictions will still regulate it, even if it is in the form of a cryptographic token. Utility tokens, on the other hand, are those tokens which are created for the sole use on the platform on top of which they were issued. So let's take, for example, the Ether token in Ethereum. Those tokens are used to launch smart contracts and to generally make use of the Ethereum platform. They can be used in secondary forms outside the platform, but that is not their main purpose. They are traded on secondary markets as well. But again, that is not their main purpose. In fact, Malta has gone so far as to give a definition to utility tokens. And again, the definition which Malta has given to utility tokens is those tokens which have no use outside the platform on top of which they are issued, and which cannot be issued for other fiat currencies or cryptocurrencies on the same platform on top of which they are issued. So just to give you an example, you cannot issue a token in the ICO, and then after the ICO finishes, you continue selling that token for fiat currency and so on. You cannot do that. If those criteria are satisfied, then most probably you would be classified as a utility token under Maltese law.
The interesting issue also, Jonathan, is that many of the security tokens want to disguise themselves as a security token.
True. That is very true.
That is a trick, and why? Because if you're a security token, obviously, and if you offer your investors a 41% or 141%, I had a client, this is what they said, no, we have 141% ROI in 2 months. You know, I got them, I said, listen, what are you doing? This is totally something that you cannot do, okay? That's why we need compliance. But if you're saying, listen, you're investing in my ICO, not even investing, you're buying a right to receive a dental service, or I don't know, an elderly home, or to walk my dog, or to get an app, you know, like a UFX app, okay? UFX, you know, this is Ray Shepard from UFX, by the way. If UFX want to issue an ICO, it's different if they target like and describe themselves as a real service and give a real service. So that's a very, very big...
In fact, on that point as well, there seems to be some misconception that future utility tokens are still utility tokens. So by future utility tokens, I mean those tokens issued in an ICO. They tell you, listen, we're going to give you an ERC20 token, and then you can exchange this token, let's say a year later, for a new cryptocurrency which we will issue once our platform is ready. Okay? Be careful. Some jurisdictions treat those future utility tokens as security tokens. So again, you have to, of course, check jurisdiction by jurisdiction. The US, for sure, treats future utility tokens as securities. There's no question asked. Exactly. The best way to do an ICO if you want to do a utility token is that you have the platform ready and you issue the tokens which can be used on your platform straight away after the ICO.
Thanks, Jonathan. How can FX and CFD brokers add crypto to their existing offerings legally?
And what licenses are needed?
Yeah, so again, if you see it was like a natural development. Many of the people from the FX started to offer also Bitcoin and also other types of cryptocurrency. So it was a natural development. Not all, you know, if you speak about GCC, Arab-speaking clients living in Saudi Arabia, or even now less Saudi Arabia, let's say Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Kuwait, many of these guys like the traditional FX. But if you're speaking about other markets, adding offerings in crypto, it's quite easy. Normally, if you have a regulated brand under MiFID, it will be covered. Cyprus does some kind of problems now because they want to make sure that your provider of feeds is regulated, which again, is something which is quite niche, because how can a provider be 100% regulated in such a new, let's say, a vertical like crypto, okay? But if you go like on with the Vanuatu license, it's more easy. So it's quite easy. The only thing is some PSPs has more challenge. I know that Orange Pay are here, and they do have some good solutions for crypto, and other PSPs does it as well. Licenses, so some companies do a very famous structure. They have a company registered in the Marshall Islands, okay, which would be one company in the structure. and it will own a second company in Estonia. In Estonia, the company will be registered in the House of Companies with either an activity license of currency exchange. That's one solution. The other solution is to get a full license in Estonia with the crypto. With the cryptocurrency license, which is quite new, it's from 2018. Other solutions, you can do other licenses in other places. Here also Ilya Talman, also another expert here. Thank you for joining us, Ilya. Ilya was once in Leverate, and now you're with Conforno, one of the sponsors of the conference. Thank you, Ilya, for joining us. Great. So, what I want to say here is it's important. Don't mess around with targeting clients in places where you think you can do it and you cannot do it. You know, there are many call centers, and I see faces here, and I will not say their names, but people from Albania targeting Italian crowds. You know, Consob are very, 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 let's say, fierce on targeting now in their list of things to do. Consob, the regulator in Italy, has on the list of aims to find those call centers who do, let's say, things which are not according to the Italian law. Okay, so if you work with the Italian market, it's very important that you work either fully regulated or at least self-regulated, and make sure that you know what you do and not do outright scams. And of course, the best if you can work and get day-to-day advice.
Basically, we want to dispel the myth that as soon as you touch with crypto, you're in an unregulated space. That is absolutely not the truth. So there might be some aspects of crypto which are not regulated, but for the most part, there's already existing regulation which will still cover crypto-related activities, including these.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know what's GDPR? Well? Do you want to? You know GDPR? Yeah, GDPR is a buzzword. Exactly.
How many of you have prepared for GDPR? Oof.
Guys, GDPR, it sounds like a curse. But GDPR, you know, for many people that's a curse. For us, it's a really good thing, GDPR, because we really enjoy on advising on that and making sure that our clients are compliant. But GDPR is entering into effect in May, in late May, and people who do not have any European data subjects in their database are free from worries. But people who are targeting European clients are now really pissed off, sorry, about this, because the fine for not complying is 4% of your annual turnover. 4% of your annual deposits, not your profit, your turnover. And now for people here, which can be affiliates, or people like hotels, or people who are doing online marketing, that's a lot of money. It's okay, it's capped in 20 million euro. So the maximum fine that someone can pay is 20 million euro. But the thing is, we still do not know how it will be enforced. And the people in this, let's say, in the gambling industry, gamble that we will be one of those. So the trend to anticipate that either a CFD broker or a cryptocurrency exchange or an online gaming site will be the first to get fines. You know, 888 got fined because of compliance issues 1 month ago. William Hill, lots of interesting. William Hill accepted clients who deposited £300,000 when they got a salary of £50,000 a year. You understand the point? So these issues are very problematic, and everybody of us needs to be compliant. What does it mean? It means that we need to make sure that there's lots of, if you check now GDPR, even on Google, you'll see lots of guides. But part of the issue that you need to make sure that clients will have the right to remove themselves from the database. You need to make sure that the data is secure. There are lots of lists. You have the right to be forgotten.
And in fact, with regards to the right to be forgotten and the right to be removed from a database, of course, the elephant in the room is what happens if you have data on an open public blockchain. That cannot be removed. An open public blockchain is, in its very own nature, immutable. And in fact, one friend of mine who is from the Netherlands told me that there's been a case recently where they decided that even if pseudonymous data is located on a blockchain and is not identifiable by itself, as in it cannot be connected to an individual, it is still falling within the remit of the GDPR, which is a very worrying decision, because that would mean, let's say, Bitcoin's blockchain might potentially be in breach of the GDPR, right? I tried to argue, I said, listen, you cannot do anything with the data which is stored on Bitcoin's blockchain, as in it doesn't help you identify any particular person. you need to have the data which is stored in exchanges, which is stored off-chain in order to identify who is sending Bitcoin over the blockchain, right? However, it seems that that point was taken into consideration, and they still decided that open public blockchains, if they don't have the facility to remove certain data, would be in breach of the GDPR. Hopefully that is just a one-off decision, and it is overturned by subsequent decisions, hopefully by the European Court.
Yeah, the conflict between the paradox between blockchain and GDPR is something which not enough people actually thought about it. When the GDPR was drafted, it's like it haven't been tackled yet, and the only place that, blockchain. There was an article that Stephanie Attias from my firm, she was working with the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission in New York, and she's now working with my firm for the last 7 years. And I can tell you, we both wrote an article which was published in Intergaming, and we analyzed the paradox between blockchain and GDPR. But again, we will not know what actually happens until next month when it will be in effect. Just a second. This is Boaz from Panda, Boaz Shilman.
GDPR.
Very good question.
Save for 7 years the data for SciSec, but for GDPR, I need to delete it. So
amazing. Thank you so much for the question, and I will explain. Thank you, Boaz. Boaz, again, working with Thomas from Panda. Thomas Cyprus, and you're from Tel Aviv. Look, good question. I want to explain. Cyprus has data keeping and data recording requirement. Not only Cyprus, but let's say each and every jurisdiction that has decent accounting principles means that you need to keep data for 7 years, for 10 years, for 4 years. Not only this, you have a statute of limitations, which means that after a certain amount of years, something is deleted. However, exactly what Boaz said, according to GDPR, if someone wants to remove his data, it's a problem. Let's say Lisa once said, listen, I want you to remove, let's say Lisa is in my database, and I know that she's also from Prague, sorry Lisa, and she's also Scandinavian, and she tells me, listen, Tal, forget all what I said about me. How can I do it? According to GDPR, I need to accept Lisa's request. You understand what I mean? But Cyprus said, no, I need to keep Lisa's records. You get my point. Guys, we have 5 more minutes. How much time do you have us? Pavel and Lisa? 8 minutes more. We got an extension. It's good. If you enjoy, and I see you're enjoying, people are standing there, you can jump there, you can jump, or you can stand there. But we like a dialogue. So if you can ask.
Yep.
No problem.
So what do Malta, Gibraltar, and Estonia offer crypto and blockchain ventures? Do you want to start off with Gibraltar and Estonia, perhaps? And I cover my favorite.
Gib, it's still sometimes, some people like it, especially people who are, let's say, UK-based or like the flavor of the British Isles. It's not really my cup of taste. I was there a few years ago in April. You still have a minister of e-gaming and financial services. It's probably one of the only countries around the world that they actually have a minister in the government that actually, in Malta, like the MGA is not under the minister of iGaming. No. So in Gib, you still have it. But at the end of the day, they're part of the UK. Okay, then they're still part of the UK. And because the Brexit is an issue, I'm not sure that it will go much further than DLT, even though there are some ICOs that use it. Malta is you speak about Malta, and Estonia, I think that we also spoke about it. So what do you think about Malta?
So Malta, as you might have heard, has a regulated framework in the pipeline, which should be finalized and promulgated as law by the end of Q2. So essentially, there will be 3 main acts which will regulate different sectors. The first act, the Virtual Financial Assets Act, has been prepared by the Malta Financial Services Authority, and it will cover ICOs, exchanges, brokerage services, and other related services. So for those who are doing, let's say, an ICO, which might be seen as a security token, those doing an exchange, whether crypto to crypto or fiat to crypto, brokerage services, promoting ICOs, services and ICO platform, like our friend Ante Danilevsky here from Kick ICO as well. So all these different companies can apply for a license under the Virtual Financial Assets Act, and they will be fully regulated. So they will have regulatory certainty rather than operating in a legal vacuum with no legal certainty in the next few years. Then there will also be a new authority called the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, and this will serve as a certifying body for those who voluntarily wish to have their blockchain-based application or platform audited and certified. So again, this is a completely voluntary basis. If you build, let's say, a crypto casino, for example, or a decentralized app, you can have it audited and certified by the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, which makes this the first authority in the world which will give a regulatory stamp of approval for such projects. The third act will be the Technology Arrangements and Services Act. It will complement the setting up of the authority, and it will lay out the technical details required for the certification by such authority. Hopefully, with this approach, Malta will have a regulatory framework in place which is welcoming for all businesses, not just ICOs, but also other businesses looking to, of course, utilize blockchain technology for their own activities.
Malta is amazing. I'm telling you, as someone, I'm unbiased. You live in Malta, I live in Tel Aviv. And Malta is very innovative, you know, and even there is like hopping between chairs, like the MGA chair, Joseph Kushkeri, is now moving to be the head of the MFSA,
yes,
the Malta Financial Services Authority, which is under MiFID. So it regulates, it started to regulate binary options even in July 2012, but now it regulates financial activities, and I think that if Joseph, and I'm sure the chairman of MGA will be the same good quality of regulator in the MFSA, it can be a tremendous leap. And also our friend Hislip Farrugia is now the CEO.
Yes, he is.
He started as a COO and then CLO, and now he's a CEO actually, the new CEO. And they're very nice people. So the regulators in Malta are people you can go and grab a beer with them. You know, they're not like the typical European regulators, even though there are other regulators as well that are similar in nature.
In fact, they tend to treat businesses as business partners rather than people who are subject to regulation. So the regulators in Malta and the government are all pulling the same rope. They want to, of course, make Malta as welcoming a jurisdiction as possible for blockchain cryptocurrencies.
Exactly. How can affiliates and brokers protect themselves? This is a question that I'm all the time asked. People enter our office and ask, listen, how can we protect ourselves? We want to be 100% protected. I'm telling you that, listen, if you want to be 100% protected, you know, Amir asked me, you know, this is Amir, one of our clients, Amir Mikay, and he asked me, listen, how can I be 100% protected? Him and his brother, Ronen, you know. And then I tell him, you want to be 100% protected, be a chef. Open a pizzeria, sell software.
But even so, you know, a chef, you know, there might be food poisoning.
Exactly,
so
and also then you cannot be. So in our industries and our interesting and challenging industry, you can never be 100% protected. But you can be as protected as can be. So you can have good contracts if you're an affiliate with the brokers. If you're a broker or a website operator, you need good contracts with affiliate. You need to shift the liability outside of yourself. So if you're an affiliate, you need to make sure that your let's say, end user, the companies that you work with, that you send the leads to, are sending, you know, we now drafted something which you call a declaration of compliance, okay? You can send me an email, I'll send you a draft how it looks like. And the declaration of compliance should be signed by the director of the website that operates and uses your leads. So let's say I'm an affiliate and I'm sending lots of leads and lots of data to, let's say, a leading CFD brand. I want that CFD brand to sign, let's say, 2 pages that says, listen, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm not doing that. And if there is any shit happens, we need to make sure that who will be liable. It's very, very important because at the end of the day, open finance magnates, open news, and you can see not even only in the niche news. In CNN, you see about new fraud, new scams. You don't want to be there.
Yes, and in fact, over and above that, when you are targeting specific jurisdictions, we know that crypto is quite a gray area. But there are some jurisdictions which are not just gray, they're actually black. They have actually banned crypto. So of course, make sure that if you're, let's say, directing any traffic, not to touch with those countries. And also, as Tal mentioned, don't work with any scams. I mean, if you can't identify the scams, at least get expert advice to help you identify which projects are scams and which projects are legitimate.
Yeah. What are the best banking solutions nowadays for crypto?
And this is the last question. So again, best banking solutions nowadays for crypto-related activities. We recognize, of course, the fact that banks don't seem to be very willing to work with, let's say, ICOs.
Even in Malta. Even in Malta.
Even in Malta, I would say across the EU, not just in the EU, outside the EU as well. So this is, I would say, an international issue. There are some of the smaller banks which are willing to work with crypto, but again, most of them are still waiting for regulation to pass before they even consider working with ICOs and other crypto-related businesses. So basically, yes, the banks right now still need to learn more about the industry before they take the step of working with such industries.
But, and there is a big but here with big capital letters. So yeah, many banks hate crypto. Hate everything that smells crypto. You go into the bank, says, listen, we're doing crypto, we're doing an ICO, we're doing a CFD, we're doing even blockchain, which is such a great thing. They'll say, no. So yes, so that's a big problem. However, there are banks, and we compiled a list of banks, some of them really, really good, some of them in Asia. You know, there's OCBC Bank in Singapore, which specific branches in Singapore will accept even if you do a CFD. If you do a CFD platform, they will accept it. We have here the guys from Tech Financials. They have an account in the same branch. You can see the guy Eyal is here. So this specific branches of some large banks do accept crypto. Avi from MoneyNet Int, licensed in the UK, they accept if you have a company with certain structure, like an Estonian structure, they will accept. Again, they won't accept fraudsters, they won't accept scammers, because they also want to take care of their reputation.
And in fact, just on that point, just a tip for those doing an ICO. If you even want to remotely have the chance to work with a bank, you must do due diligence on each and every investor. Even if they invest 10 euro, 50 euro, 100 euro, whatever it is, they will not even consider talking to you unless you have conducted due diligence on each and every investor. It can be a pain, but if you want to work with a bank, unfortunately, that is the price.
Guys, thank you so much. If you have any questions, we have 1 minute open for questions, and afterwards we'll be here.